Good. Well, thank you all so much for being here today. I'm going to paraphrase our county executive and say it's a great day to be at the Alice Ferguson Foundation's Hard Bargain Farm in Prince George's County. So I'm Lori Arguelles, and I'm privileged to serve as the Executive Director of the Alice Ferguson Foundation, as well as your Mistress of Ceremonies today. And for more than 60 years, the Alice Ferguson Foundation has been a premier provider of transformative, experiential environmental education programs, and we've served nearly 500,000 students in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. And we're pleased to host you here today at the Foundation's 300-plus acre education campus and working farm as we celebrate the certification of the world's 13th fully certified Living Building Challenge project. So our campus is both the perfect place for this building and also the perfect place for the students to embrace scientific, ecological, and agricultural principles. And they learn all of that as they connect to nature, which is so abundantly evident all around us. Mother Nature was toying with us, and I had hoped we would be outside this morning, but of course we're inside, so it's not raining. Isn't that the way it always goes? Our mission is to connect people to nature, sustainable agricultural practices, and the cultural heritage of our local watershed. And we do that through education, advocacy, and stewardship. We fulfill our mission in large part through overnight and day-long field studies right here at Hard Bargain Farm, but we also provide off-site opportunities to be a student scientist for a day through our Bridging the Watershed program, and we help keep our rivers and communities clean through our Trash-Free Potomac Watershed Initiative. In fact, with approximately 65% of our Potomac River watershed cleanup sites reporting, I'm pleased to say that we had nearly 6,000 volunteers participate at more than 250 cleanup sites, and they cleaned up more than 240,000 pounds of trash. Do we have any site leaders in the room? Anybody who participated? So throughout the decades, our guiding principles have been education, inspiration, and innovation, all three of which are exemplified in the building that we are here to certify today, a building that embraces the Living Building Challenge, which is, as I can attest, the most rigorous set of energy efficiency green building standards in the world today. Our living buildings are designed to function like species in an ecosystem and mimic the beauty, resourcefulness, and efficiency of nature's architecture. Living buildings are designed to regenerate, not deplete their surroundings. And it turns out they don't call this a challenge for nothing. We've had a great team who's worked for over a decade to achieve this certification here with us today, including Scott Kelly and the revision team, our design team. Scott, raise your hand. Charles McPherson and the Ficina team, and Sandy Wiggins, our owner's representative. Sandy, raise your hand. We are also very grateful for the strong community of support that has helped to make this project possible. We are very fortunate to have visionary partners at the state and county levels who have boldly supported this project, and you'll hear from them momentarily. Their support is a reflection of the value of our mission and the benefit we provide to the students we serve. We thank them for their investment, and we know the return on that investment will be manifold. The state of Maryland and Prince George's County are both significant contributors to this project, but it was also private sector involvement, especially from the Morris and Gwendolyn Cafritz Foundation, that really catalyzed our efforts. And we're delighted to unveil for the first time publicly today the Morris and Gwendolyn Cafritz Foundation Environmental Center. Mr. Cafritz wasn't able to be with us today, but Mary Mulcahy, our program officer from the Cafritz Foundation, is here. Thank you so much, Mary. And please, the whole team, I want you to know, it took us a little while, but the whole, 25-person team came down here and had a chance to see and enjoy what we've done. So thank you very much to the Cafritz Foundation. We also had support from the Chesapeake Bay Trust, the Maryland Energy Administration, the Kresge Foundation, Unilever, the Philip L. Graham Fund, Old Line Bank, the Vaverka Foundation, and numerous private individuals, including former board chair Brian Logan, Frank and Shirley Nikolai, and Nancy Gasparovic. Today, we celebrate not only a major milestone for this fine educational institution, but a milestone in the larger battle against the effects of climate change. Recent events make clear the need for communities, states, and organizations like ours to take the lead on addressing the impacts of climate change. Buildings collectively consume 70% of our energy and produce 40% of our greenhouse gas emissions. Now, our embrace of the rigorous requirements of the Living Building Challenge means that this building will avert 120 tons of carbon dioxide greenhouse gas emissions annually. That's the equivalent of 25 cars off the road each year. That might not sound like much when you look at the number of cars around you on the Beltway or heading up Indian Head Highway, but imagine the impact if even a tenth of the new buildings being constructed were to embrace just the carbon neutral aspect of the Living Building Challenge. That's a lot of cars and a lot of impact. And we've been proud to be at the forefront of showing how we can create good paying, clean energy jobs to help mitigate the causes of climate change, increase energy efficiency, and reduce our carbon footprint. We're not done yet, though. Thanks to individual, corporate, foundation, and government support, we've been able to complete the first phase of the project. We look forward to growing our community of support in order to complete the project with the construction of our new overnight lodge and an additional solar array. And we'll need all of you to help us complete the second and final phase of the project. So finally, I want to thank and recognize the amazing staff here at the Alice Ferguson Foundation. Their dedication, experience, and can-do spirit make it a joy to come to work here every day. Team, please raise your hands and be recognized. And we are blessed to have a wonderful board team ably represented by Vice President Bud Wareham and Secretary Bill Cooper. They are here today. Bill, Bud. And we do have a wonderful lineup of partners and supporters here today, including County Executive Baker, who will be here momentarily, I understand, our very own county councilman, the very best district in the county, Mel Franklin, Delegate Susie Proctor, and we have from our partner community, Lance Davis from the General Services Administration, Kathleen Smith, who's the Vice President of the Living Building Challenge for the International Living Future Institute, our certifying body, and Melissa Wackerly from the American Institute of Architects, and Steve Walls with the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments. So let's begin this morning with a word from our local elected leader, Mel Franklin.
Thank you, Lauren. Appreciate it. Well, such another wonderful day in Prince George's County. I want to, first of all, just thank the Alice Ferguson Foundation for your leadership, your vision. It's so great to have this incredible facility right here in Prince George's County, right here in South County, right here in District 9. And so I'm particularly proud. All the steps along the way that it's taken to get here have all been worth it, because this is a really fulfilling accomplishment. It really represents a triumph of innovation and partnership. Where public and private sector can come together and really allow the intersection of education, the environment, and the economy. It's showing that we can defeat climate change while we also grow the economy. It's not an either-or scenario. And that's really one of the biggest messages that I think should come out of today. We're getting a glimpse into the future of what we'll see for sustainable buildings going forward. And I know everyone in this room had a part in it. And thank you all for all of your efforts. I do want to acknowledge that it really took a team. And it took all of the partners from the government, took the private sector. But I also want to mention that this isn't over. We are still building this vision. As you heard Lori say, this is for phase one. We have other phases, and there'll be other opportunities. Can you believe that there are only 13 buildings in the world like this? 13. And this is one of the 13. We have to acknowledge that that sends a message about where we want to be in the world. Prince George's County is going to be at the cutting edge. We're going to be a leader when it comes to the green economy. We want people, when they think of Prince George's County, to think of sustainability, to think of green jobs, and to think of us all building a better world. So thank you all for being here. I did want to acknowledge a couple other folks in the room. Michael Chiaramonte from the Chiaramonte family, great philanthropist, and his family founded Southern Maryland Hospital. Thank you so much for being here. Good to see you, sir. I know Carrie Watson, representing MGM National Harbor. Thank you, Carrie, for being here. Jimmy said, representing the Business Roundtable. Thank you so much for being here. And so many of you. You all are important. You all are VIPs in my book. But thank you so much, Lori. We look forward to the continuing and unfolding partnership that this represents. I can't wait. We were talking about my kids. I got a rising fifth grader and a rising first grader. I'm not sure if the fifth grader will be able to stay in the lodge, but the first grader will be. And I know she'll enjoy it. We want to make sure all our kids are learning about the next great big steps in science and in unleashing our great minds we have in the county. You know, there's nothing like looking into the eyes of a young person when they discover something new. And what better to discover in greater technologies to improve our environment. So thank you, everybody. Congratulations, everyone. Oh, and a special thanks to the K-FRITZ Foundation. I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge your incredible commitment, not just to this project, but to what you're doing here in Prince George's County. We love Whole Foods. We're having a good time at Whole Foods, but your philanthropy is amazing. And thank you so much for your efforts. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Mel, and thank you for being our champion. The county has been very generous in its support, as has the state, and it is my very great honor to introduce our next speaker, Delegate Susie Proctor, who has a long and storied connection to this wonderful place. Her husband, Jim Proctor, who I think everybody in this room knew and loved, maybe not quite as much as you, Susie, but darn close. You got some competition. In fact, there is a plaque on one of our chaperone bunks that says, Jim Proctor slept here. Because in the early days of his career, he was an educator, which I think most of you probably know. And he was one of the first to bring students here for an overnight experience. It was back in the days when the boys got to sleep in the hayloft. And so your son will get to sleep in the new bunkhouses, if not the new lodge, Mel. I can promise you that. And I can also promise you, Susie, that the Delegate Proctor slept here is going to be a part of our future going forward for decades. So thank you, and thank your family for all that you've done, and I'd like to invite you to come up and say a few words.
Thank you.
Well, as a lifelong resident of Prince George's County, I could not be more excited. And as was mentioned, I guess my husband was here 40 years ago bringing kids. He would be just so pleased and so excited about this building and what it promises. I look at it as a former educator and all the things that our children who are currently in school are going to come here and learn. I think about my granddaughter who has serious problems with allergies, and I just can't imagine what kind of things we're going to learn from this, how to make other buildings more environment, if not free, at least at a better level than we're dealing with at this point. So I just want to thank everyone here for all you've done, and it's just so exciting to have another major worldwide, if you will, project here in not just Prince George's, but Southern Prince George's. Thank you.
We are pretty special, aren't we? So to help give that broader perspective, I would love to invite Kathleen Smith to the podium. Kathleen is the Vice President for the Living Building Challenge at the International Living Future Institute. And I'm not sure if you do therapy sessions on the side or not, but we've been very, very grateful to have the opportunity to really challenge ourselves and those around us to do the very best that we can. So Kathleen, thanks for coming up and putting into perspective for us.
Great. Thank you, Lori. Yes, all good architects also have a degree in counseling, so it goes hand in hand. So thank you, Lori, and thank you all of you. It is a real pleasure to be here today with all of you and to celebrate this building and all the work that went into making it happen. As Lori said, my name is Kathleen Smith. I am the Vice President of the Living Building Challenge at the International Living Future Institute. And ILFI is a nonprofit organization, and we are dedicated to creating buildings and communities that are ecologically restorative, socially just, and culturally rich. So as Mel said, these things are not mutually exclusive, that really to create a living future, we need to be thinking about all of these aspects in the work that we do. So we operate a number of programs that are designed to help committed individuals and practitioners and manufacturers and organizations, companies and government agencies create materials and products, as well as buildings and communities and policies and programs that really embody these goals and model what a living future is. Our flagship program is the Living Building Challenge. And the Living Building Challenge, as Lori said, is indeed a challenge. It is widely accepted to be the most innovative and most rigorous green building standard in the world. And we are here today to celebrate the certification of the Morris and Gwendolyn K. Fritz Foundation Environmental Center, which is a living building. As has been said, it's one of just over a dozen buildings that have received this highest level of achievement. So this building represents a deep commitment by the Alice Ferguson Foundation and by the design and construction team and everybody involved in this project. It's a commitment in terms of the effort involved in creating a living building, but it's also a commitment to the environment and to people now and into the future. So with the creation of this building, the Alice Ferguson Foundation is really taking a stand that they believe that the social and environmental issues we face, including climate change, are real, and that they believe we as humans are playing a role in creating them. They are saying that our actions matter. But the creation of this building stands more for a belief in the impact we have. It stands for hope. Hope in our future and the belief that our actions can be positive, that we can live in harmony with nature and with each other, that we can be vital, beneficial, contributing members of the ecosystem, both natural and human. So this is significant, and this building is a sign of that hope and a beacon of light that will guide others in this region and the nation and the world. The Living Building Challenge consists of 20 different imperatives, requirements, covering 7 different petals, or what we refer to as performance areas. So this building met all 20 of those very ambitious and very rigorous imperatives under all 7 petals. And those 7 petals are place, water, energy, health and happiness, materials, equity, and beauty. So by achieving the place petal, this project demonstrates the Foundation's commitment to preserving natural areas and farmland and to deepening all of our connection to the ecosystems in which we live. In achieving the water petal, this project is demonstrating that we can reduce water use, in this particular case by 94% from a typical building, and that we can live within the carrying capacity and the natural flows and cycles of our watersheds. By achieving the energy petal, this project is demonstrating climate leadership and resiliency. It shows that we can significantly reduce our energy use and generate more energy than we need on-site from renewable resources. By achieving the health and happiness petal, this project provides an optimal learning environment for children and for adults, with a deep connection to place. And really, what better place for the Foundation to fulfill its mission of providing those experiences that encourage those connections between people and the natural environment and farming and the cultural heritage of this area than a building that's deeply rooted in its place, in its culture, in its history. By achieving the materials pedal, this project is eliminating literally hundreds of toxic chemicals, the worst-in-class chemicals, from the building materials. This protects the health of the people in this building, all of you here today. It also protects the health of the people in the factories making those materials, in the communities that surround those factories, the health of the construction workers that built this building, but it also protects the health of the ecosystem from the runoff that, spoils our soil, our air, our water. So by achieving the materials pedal, the project has also helped to create jobs in the region, supporting the local economy, with almost 3/4 of the materials used in this building coming from within the 500-mile radius. And by achieving the equity pedal, this project benefits the local community, promotes interaction, and assures that everyone has access to a living building. And by achieving the last pedal, the beauty pedal, this project fulfills the mission of the Alice Ferguson Foundation of connecting people and educating people to be stewards of place. Anyone that has been to a living building knows that there's something about them that is deeply impacting, that speaks not just to the mind, but to the heart. Living buildings feel different, and they leave us feeling different. So when folks first hear about the Living Building Challenge, they often ask, how can that be possible? That seems crazy. But once people visit a living building, like this building that we're in right now, their question becomes, why isn't every building built like this? So early in my career, I actually worked as an environmental educator, and I still think that the work I do is environmental education, just in a different light. And I learned then that the key to teaching people to protect their environment was love. And what I mean by that is people love what they know, and they protect what they love. So people need to experience the wonder and beauty of nature, to know it and to love it, and to therefore protect it. And this is precisely the mission of the Alice Ferguson Foundation, and it's precisely what the Alice Ferguson Foundation and the project team and all of you that contributed to the success of this project have achieved with this building. This building is a physical manifestation of what is possible, of how we as humans can cultivate restorative ecosystems. And it's really a physical manifestation of what we talk about when we talk about a living future that is ecologically restorative, socially just, and culturally rich. So I encourage all of you to explore the building, the bathrooms, the site. I encourage you to ask questions about what you see. I encourage you to encourage others to visit and to think about and have conversations about where you live, where you work, where you learn, where you play, and how those spaces can be transformed to inspire and catalyze change the way this building is doing that, and is doing that now and for years to come. So thank you, everybody involved in the creation of this building. It's truly remarkable and is a beacon of hope in our world. So thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you for being an inspiration and to help us think about how an alternative future really can manifest. And speaking of futures, let me also invite to the podium Melissa Wackerly. We've got some really awesome titles that people have. She's the Director of Sustainable Practice and Knowledge at the American Institute of Architects. And Melissa's been here in the building, been inspired by the building, and has been thinking along with her colleagues at AIA for a while about what does the future look like and how do we help to manifest that future that Kathleen was talking about. So join me in welcoming Melissa Wackerly.
Thanks, Lori. I would love to say, first of all, what a monumental achievement it has been to certify this building under Living Building Challenge. It's an enormous undertaking, and it takes a lot of commitment and leadership, and everyone in this room who contributed to that is to be commended. We had a meeting here last fall with our energy leadership group, and it was truly inspirational to see these architects and engineers come together and think of the future of the institute and the profession and really envision it in such a beautiful space that's so inspirational. We've been talking a lot in the past few years, and especially the last week with the announcement that happened last week about what we can do about climate change. And so we think about climate change in a few different ways. First of all, we want to take the bulk of our membership, so we think of it as propelling the bell. So where is the bulk of our membership now, and how do we pull them forward so that they are incorporating sustainable design and carbon neutral measures into their projects? We think of that in different ways with threats. What are the threats to the built environment? They could be shocks like Superstorm Sandy, or they could be stresses like the increasing global temperatures. And how does our profession respond? How does the built environment? What are the solutions that we can provide the built environment? And we think of these in a few different ways. Our flagship program for climate change and carbon neutrality would be the 2030 Commitment Program. And so in 2006, AIA adopted Architecture 2030's carbon neutrality goals, which is a stepped target towards carbon neutral by 2030. And right now we're actually at 70%, or the goal is 70% over the 2003 baseline. And we have over 400 firms who have committed to this. They not only commit to designing their portfolios to meet the targets with varying success, but it's always about how you change your culture, how you change the firm culture to meet these goals. So as part of that, they also submit a sustainable action plan to talk about how their firm is going to address projects and meet those goals, in addition to operations for those projects. So we're really proud of that program. We're about to issue the 2016 progress report. We see increasing impact every year. We like to look at the conclusions with our working group, so watch for that to come out probably in the next few weeks, maybe later this summer. We also have a lot of other ways we look at carbon neutrality and how we address climate change. We look at it with mitigation, which is what we do with the 2030 Commitment Program. How do we stop climate change from happening, or decrease the impact of climate change? And we can also do that through building materials. So I know you guys talked a lot about your building materials. We have a program for building materials and looking at life cycle assessments. So what's the embodied carbon of a building? How much carbon does it take to actually construct the building and build the material? So there's a huge impact of those buildings with the carbon release as well. So we're trying to work with our members to see how we can address not only operational energy, but also embodied carbon. On the other side, we have to, as climate change is already happening, so we have to look at adaptation. If you have a changing climate, how do you build buildings like the Morrison Gwendolyn K. Fritz Foundation Environmental Center that can adapt to the shifting environment that's around us? So as the temperatures increase, how is this building going to respond? So we have programs for all of those things, and we want to make sure that our profession is at the ready to give valuable solutions. With the issue of the announcement last week, as a matter of fact, we sent a statement to the International Union of Architects supporting the Paris Agreement, and it's already been signed on by about a dozen other professional organizations around the world. We anticipate that all of them will sign. We had a very similar effort in 2014 with the 2050 imperative, that's carbon neutral built environment by 2050, signed unanimously. So we're hopeful that we can still take on this challenge and handle it head on. So. Great job on this building. I really look forward to the next iteration. The bunkhouses that you have now are beautiful. We're thinking about having our next energy leadership group meeting out here, and could even spend the time in the bunkhouse there. So we'll see how those members like that. They're pretty adventurous. So congratulations, great job, and tremendous effort, and I appreciate your time.
You're all welcome to stay anytime you like. Just make a reservation, that's all I ask. So I'm going to ask Lance Davis to join us now, and Lance can give us some great thoughts about hopeful areas as he represents the U.S. General Services Administration, otherwise known as GSA, and he's the Program Manager for Design Excellence, Architecture, Sustainability. So Lance, thanks for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, y'all. I'm Lance Davis. I am essentially the sustainability architect for the federal government. And so I make sure our federal buildings are as green as possible across the country. It's a great job. I get to work with courthouses, land port of entries, and a lot of office buildings. And they're normally pretty big, because the federal government's a decent size. And one of the great things about this building and that it's in Prince George's County is that it's not only educating students, but it's also educating government executives. The fact that I can bring my boss or other people from government agencies out here to show them what a living building is all about, so where that you get rid of that fear factor. Many people, when you talk about a Clivus Multrum toilet, think about what they probably used in a park 20 years ago that wasn't all that great. But when you show them what it's like in a modern building like this, it's a very different experience, and it removes some of that fear factor. It also, one of the great things this project did that hasn't really been talked about is the work that they had to do with Prince George's County and the code officials and the inspectors. The fact that something so new, these people had to get on board, had to be educated about all of these new systems. Well, the federal government is moving towards net zero energy and water or waste by 2020 for all of our new construction that's owned. Well, it's an enormous task that we have to take on. How do I take a 1 million square foot office building in downtown DC and start to disconnect it from some of the grids? Well, buildings like this give us that opportunity to bring some of those officials out, to bring design teams out and say, hey, yes, this is much smaller than what we're having to deal with potentially, but it's that starting point. You start from here and you continue to build. You also bring out the technology people, the people building the stuff, the toilets, the technology, the systems that are in here. American companies and local companies that come out here and learn and say, hey, if I want to compete in today's marketplace, I have to start from this point and be better. I need to make my product better so where that more companies start to buy it here locally. And those are the sort of attitudes that we're looking for. That's the sort of ingenuity at GSA that we want to bring into our buildings to make sure that we're appropriately using taxpayer dollars for the long term. When you have assets that have been around for 150 years, you want to make sure that they're appropriate, that you're spending the money on them adequately, and that we're being responsible for what all of us put into the taxpayer system. So thank you very much for bringing this building to us. We really appreciate it. We really look forward to learning more, especially as more buildings are brought on and a potential neighborhood sort of aspect coming out of it. So thank you very much.
So if it's not clear by now, we do sort of our main clientele are students, but we love adult learners too, just in case you didn't get that idea. So I'm going to invite two more people to come to the podium. Steve Walls, who's with the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments, and he's a director of environment programs. And then we'll hear from David Iannucci, who's the Deputy Chief Administrative Officer for the county. I understand the county executive has had to deal with a pressing matter. So David, thank you for pinch hitting. We sure appreciate it. But Steve, I'd like to invite you to the table to give us a little bit of a sense of what's going on around the region, and then we'll drill right down to what's happening in Prince George's County. So welcome, Steve Walls, please.
Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you very much, and congratulations both to Allison Ferguson Foundation and the K-Fritz Foundation. This is just an amazing site, and it really sets a new standard, not just here in southern Prince George's County, but really in our region and across the country and across the world as to what can be done. And so it's just a remarkable place to be able to stand here today and be in it, because it addresses the full spectrum of sustainability, not just energy, not just water, not just materials, but as we've heard from some of the other speakers, this really full spectrum spectrum, that it brings it all together where we can see it here. We can, as we just heard, we can bring people here to see it. And whether it's the students, whether it's the people who are in the construction industry that'll look around and say, geez, even the stuff that I can't see, I can recognize what was done in this building. And educating those people on how to do that is particularly important. And so as the next projects get done across our region, we'll know where to get the materials that will meet these standards that you had to really build a lot of the pathways to in order to do that. So this is just an example of what is happening more often across the metropolitan Washington region. For example, I'm not sure a lot of people realize that the Prince George's County Redevelopment Authority are doing net zero energy buildings as part of it. There was the first net zero energy house they did in Suitland. There's I guess the number of row homes that are, I think, up in Tacoma Park that are being done. And so there's any number of examples of people who are using the technologies and the learning that was put together at this building to be able to do other work. And so it really is expanding across the region. Through the lead of the Alice Ferguson Foundation and really the lead of GSA, the metropolitan Washington region has more lead buildings than any metropolitan region in the country, more than LA, more than New York, more than Chicago, by a pretty significant margin, a couple of hundred more buildings than even the next highest in, and I think it's in LA or New York. It's because of the leadership that it has become kind of a standard practice for many of the top-end buildings that are being built in this region that now get built to at least the minimum level to be able to meet LEED standards. But this really extends the horizon for us to be able to look much, much farther. We've set a broad goal to be able to reduce greenhouse gas emissions within the metropolitan Washington region by 80% below our baseline, and we won't get there without these types of examples of having both net zero energy, net zero waste, net zero water buildings, the types of things that this building is doing. And so this is just an example that will really help move the whole region forward. Again, there's been the GSA leadership that has got us there. There's been the private businesses and the design communities that have stepped up to do this type of work that has helped get us there. And then there's the local governments like Prince George's County that have stepped up to get us there. In Prince George's, one of the other things they've done is to pass an ordinance that will require renewable energy, renewable systems to be put in all new buildings that are being built by the county. And so they're putting their will and their money behind it and helping us move us forward. And so we'll be using that as an example to help move others along and set up a friendly competition among all the localities to be able to do things like that. So we do have a lot more to do. We see the risks that we are facing from the potential changes to our climate and what that will mean to us. And so again, it's great to be here to be able to use this as an example across our region. And as we look at other types of facilities that are being designed and built, the American Geophysical Union in Washington, D.C. is going to be, doing energy recovery out of the sewer system, types of different technologies that will be appropriate for these various spaces. And this is a great building for this space, and we look forward to using this as an example to do many, many others like that to meet our goals. So congratulations and thank you.
So my long-standing mantra for Prince George's County is green buildings, green business, and green technology. And with that, I'd like to invite David Iannucci to come up and talk about a little bit more about the county's perspective. And David, on behalf of the county executive, to thank you so very much for the county's investment in what we're doing here. It's very clear that this county executive cares deeply about all of the residents of the county, cares deeply about the students, has invested a great deal in education. And we look at this as a reflection on you all just as much as it is on us. So, David, please.
Good morning. Again, the county executive we've just learned is not going to be able to join us, so I'm happy to be your last-minute substitute. I know the county executive was here actually for the groundbreaking and for the ribbon cutting, so I know that he would be is particularly disappointed he cannot be here to congratulate you on the certification for the Living Building Award, to thank the Alice Ferguson Foundation, KFRITS, all of the nonprofits and the government people. Lori, thank you very much, and again, it's really my pleasure to try and represent the county executive. There are few things more important to Mr. Baker than education, and this facility really brings together an opportunity to teach young folks about the environment, but it also is the teaching when it comes to what the business sector can do. I am typically identified with economic development, with buildings, maybe more with pavement than with green places, because we're really very much about trying to make it so that the residents of Prince George's County can work in the county that they live in, so that they don't have to get in their car or get on Metro and drive 20 or 40 or 50 miles. And one of the things we need to do to make that possible is have more buildings like this, because when we're pursuing the General Service Administration for leases, we have learned the hard way, in fact, that our buildings may not be up to standards. They may not have the energy requirements that the GA is looking for. So we want to use this building as an example to teach our landlords and our owners of what they need to do to compete for GSA leases, so that we can bring jobs to Prince George's County, so that our residents can be less commuters and more folks who can live, work, and play in their same jurisdiction. We're working on a number of different projects that involve environmental sustainability and economic development, and those two are very, very compatible. It is possible in the next few months there'll be affirming of the announcement that the Citizenship and Immigration Services will come to Camp Springs by the metro station. That's 3,200 jobs in the headquarters of CIS moving out of Washington. I expect that you'll be working with that building should that occur, and to make sure that it gets the same type of plaques that this facility has. And I will also say with great confidence, I anticipate there'll be an announcement by the FBI, where we'll also have a chance to work with you as well. So that will be a great coming together of a campus, potentially, an environmentally sustainable campus with this type of certification that will bring jobs to Prince George's County, and again, will help keep our commuters, our citizens off the road. So thank you all. Congratulations for giving us this wonderful example. It hits the mark for the county executive on education and for economic development, and brings those things together. So it's really been my pleasure to say thank you and congratulations to you all.
So just as we close out the you have to stand for only 3 more minutes portion of the program, I would just like to give a shout out to some other fellow LEED certified buildings that are in the house, including MGM, Gold LEED certification. So that's, that's impressive. That's hard to do. I will say we did actually manage to score the highest number of points for any commercial building in the state of Maryland under the LEED certification. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that, with 100% for water and 100% for energy. But the fact is, I think that we all need to strive to do what we can in the space that we are responsible for. Our homes, our workplaces, and to really be thinking proactively. We look forward to being a great resource. We look forward to looking for great resources like lumber from GE Frisco, which is a Forestry Stewardship Council certified provider. And those are the kinds of things that make a difference. And so the easier we can make it in order to do what we need to do, the better off we will all be. And so while it has been a challenge to be at the painful, pointy tip of the spear as we change the supply and demand chain, we have done it. And there are actually a couple of examples in this building where products that we only used if they could meet the red list. And that means not using things that have formaldehyde in them, for example. And so we've had some suppliers who just took it out for our project, but we've had others where we have changed the supply chain forever. And we are so grateful to the inspiration. We have kids here. You may have heard their laughing voices as they got off the bus today. We have a day group here today enjoying all kinds of weather. And so I hope that you all will stay. That concludes the official portion of our program today. We do have a panel discussion. So what I'd like to do is thank you all for coming, and to invite folks, if you want to maybe just enjoy a little bit of fresh air. One of the great things about the way this building was designed is, yes, we should do that. that, shouldn't we? Thank you for reminding me, Kathleen. Here I am in hostess mode, and there's, oh, by the way, there's that plaque that belongs to us now. We earned it. We did. We should take it. So before we get to that, let me invite our board representative. Susie, would you come up with us? David, if you're still here, if you'd come up, and this was definitely a team effort, so let's get the plaque, shall we? Thank you. Yes.
Excellent. Yes, well, just once more, I would like to congratulate the Alice Ferguson Foundation, the project team, all of the nonprofit organizations, the K. Fritz Foundation, all of the government agencies and individuals who were instrumental in making this building a success. It is truly going to be a catalyst for change in the region, the state, the nation, and the world. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
We can do anything.
Back in is
Yes.
Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Hold the gentleman right there. Here we go. Good. Hold on over here. All good?
I'm good. Yes.
Yep, sir.
Can we get the K. Fritz Foundation?
Yes, Mary,
Absolutely. Yes. Come on up, Mary.
One more. Here we go. 1, 2. Sir, can you come on this side? Fantastic. 1, 2, 3. Open this gentleman. Once more over here. You got it?
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic.